The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Thursday, April 27th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me. Christian nationalism is on the rise. Again, particularly the conversation, the national discourse. Conservatives are trying to insert the phrase, the branding, the identity of Christian nationalism back into the national discourse. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene messed up months ago, almost, I guess, probably a year ago, and said that the entire nation should be a Christian nationalist nation. And that set off the red flags for everyone, pushing that word and that phrase back into the dregs of society from which it came. I say this proudly as a Christian. Christian nationalism is the religion of white supremacy. It is exactly how you had everything that happened to black people in this country, whether it be slavery or Jim Crow. The reality that these individuals, Christian nationalists, were the people that black people had to fight against to get every single liberty that we have in this country. In fact, every person under the sound of my voice who enjoys a freedom that is not a straight white Christian man, you literally had to fight against Christian nationalists to get that freedom. I want to go one step further. The very people who are promoting Christian nationalism today, they are in some cases the biological descendants, but in every case, the philosophical descendant of the very people who would lynch us, black folks, on Sunday morning, before, during, or after their church services, doing it in the name of the Lord. So let's be clear. The legacy and the purpose of Christian nationalism is a far right-wing extremist white supremacist ideology that seeks to gain political power and gets to hide underneath the very gentle appeal of a Hillsong styled worship service, where they'll cry out to the Lord, 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 we love you, and simultaneously do their very best to make sure that your rights are not only infringed upon, but that they get enough political power to punish you with the force of law if they don't approve of your lifestyle. That is what Christian nationalism is, and that's what's on the rise in this country. I generally use the phrase theocratic fascism because Christian nationalism is a form of theocratic fascism. I want to play a clip for you of one praise leader, or I guess maybe he's a preacher, Stephen Fook. I can't pronounce his last name. Immaterial. What's material is what he says. The agenda of Christian nationalists is to gain political power to dominate not only the United States of America, but the world. And I'm sounding the alarm as hard as I can as a Christian, as a man of faith, because we need to clearly understand that not only is Christian nationalism a threat to every single person who doesn't want to live their life as a Christian, which is your right. It's your freedom. Every person who does not want to conform to the rules and the mandates of Christian nationalism or Christianity, generally speaking, but it's a threat to all of us, even those of us who are Christians. It's especially a threat to black Christians because, as I have stated already, black Christians had to fight like hell, pun intended, against these white nationalist Christian devils to get every single freedom that we have. And now we find ourselves back at a stage of American history where the very vultures and culprits, the very insidious ideology that was the bane of our existence, that we had to fight against to get every single liberty, it's all the rave now. Why? Because we are living in the renaissance of white supremacy, the resurgence of white Christian nationalism. It's all the rave because they understand the way they can maintain political power is by using religion as a bludgeoning tool, because you can always cut on that bigoted gene that's inside of, quite frankly, every single one of us if we're not careful. But white Christian nationalists in particular understand the masterful art of using religion to incite violence as well as to gain political power. Listen to this clip as they make it clear their goal is to dominate society for and with and through Christian nationalism.
It's all part of the king coming back. That's what we're practicing for. That's why hell hates it that we're worshiping at every capital across America. That's why we get called, well, you're a Christian nationalist. You want the kingdom to be the government. Yes. You want God to come and overtake the government. Yes. You want Christians to be the only ones that, yes, we do. We wouldn't be a disciple of Jesus if we didn't believe that. We want God to be in control of everything. We want believers to be the ones writing the laws. Yes, guilty as charged. I mean, it's funny when I meet Christians where I'm like, I'm like, have you read the Great Commission? Like, this is actually what we want. Guilty.
Now, he's clearly misrepresenting the Great Commission. Go ye therefore into all nations and preach the gospel. It didn't say, go ye therefore in all nations and overthrow democracy for the sake of your political ideology that you merely wrap in the veneer of Christianity. Your real ideology is Christian nationalism, theocratic fascism, authoritarianism. Okay. The Bible never told us to go. See, this is not too far removed from George W. Bush spreading democracy with our military, right? The desire to go and overthrow. This is not too far removed from the Crusades, the Inquisitions. This is, again, they are in lockstep. The philosophical ideology has been passed down pure. It's pure. The only difference is it's a lot easier for them to get away with it now because they do it before and during and after a nice praise and worship song that a lot of Christians and even black Christians fall for. But at the end of the day, it is a political agenda that is designed specifically to obtain and maintain political and economic power. Period. Full stop. That's what they want. It is power for the sake of power. For so many of them, they don't really honestly and earnestly care. See, these evangelicals, these white evangelicals who have gotten in bed with the Republican Party machine, now they genuinely believe their delusions that they are serving the true and living God by and through their hatred and their desire to dominate society and their desire to make sure that anyone who's gay, lesbian, or transgender, that you go and hide in the closets or that you go and be forced to transition conversion therapy. This is what they genuinely believe, but not the political party that they're aligned with. The political party that they align with, they don't care what you believe. The Republican Party doesn't give a damn about whether or not you genuinely believe in Christ, right? They want power. And then, of course, the rich, the oligarchs that are behind all of it, they certainly don't even probably consider themselves to be Christian, but they understand how to leverage the language of Christianity and how to weaponize the boots on the ground that are all of these zealous religious fanatics who cannot live in a society. They just simply cannot live in a society where someone that they disapprove of has as many rights as they have. That to them is hell on earth. And they want now to bring their version, their specific interpretation of Christianity that has not been healthy for anyone except for rich white men. I mean, it's not even healthy for the white women who push it and promote it. It's certainly not healthy for their white children who have to endure it and grow up through it. But it is certainly effective at replicating itself from generation to generation. An ideology, a religion based and rooted in white supremacy that is laundered through society, through the innocuous sounds of Hillsong-styled praise and worship. But when they get done singing their melodious songs, they are spreading an ideology of hate, a political agenda of hate, all wrapped in the veneer of Christianity. Marjorie Taylor Greene, that rather disgusting, repugnant, and insidious Republican from the state of Georgia makes my case pretty well that the very people running around pretending to represent the loving kindness of Jesus are in fact evil. Listen to this exchange that she had with Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, during a hearing yesterday. And I actually want to give some context. I don't want you to just hear the cruelty that she uses to imply that Randy is not, in fact, a mother, a real mother, because she has adopted children. Right? That's the insult. That's the cruelty of this clip. But the context of this clip is that they're trying to attack all of the organizations, all of the leaders that did anything to try to protect children during the pandemic, a la shutting down schools, making them wear a mask, or at least trying to make them wear a mask, and trying to get an alternative to the incubators that are classrooms during a pandemic. These people insisted that your children go into classrooms where, even if it is a sunny day and we're not in a pandemic, we are spreading germs. Like it's a classroom. If you ever taught school, or your kids ever went to public school or any school, you know exactly how sick your kids would get on an average day, let alone during the middle of a pandemic. So the premise in this entire conversation itself is disgusting. It is anti-science, it is anti-truth, and it is wrapped in just cruelty, the cruelty that you will find in all Christian nationalists. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Are you a mother?
I am a mother by marriage.
By marriage, I see.
And my wife is here with me, so I'm really glad that she's here. Rabbi Sharon Klein.
Miss Weingarten, I reclaim my time. I didn't ask you a question.
Sorry.
What I'd like to talk about is your recommendations to the CDC as not a medical doctor, not a biological mother, and really not a teacher either. You had no business advising the CDC what the medical guidelines were for school closures, because now we have a nation of school children who have suffered because of it. The problem is people like you need to admit that you're just a political activist, not a teacher, not a mother, and not a medical doctor.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make note that the decorum of the attacks on the witness were unacceptable that the gentlelady from Georgia just did. And so it'd be nice if we didn't attack the witnesses, particularly and making a decision about whether or not she's a mother. You are a mother. Thank you for being a great parent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your point of order is recognized, Mr. Garcia.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is the leader of the Republican Party. Yeah, I know she's not running for president. You got Donald Trump over there, but Marjorie Taylor Greene controls Kevin McCarthy in that house. She has him by his jockstrap, okay? She controls his movements. And I would think at some point, white people in this country, white conservatives, would be just appalled by just how repugnant this Neanderthal is. I mean, I know white supremacy has never been supreme, but you all should be embarrassed. Listen to this. Listen to the level of intelligence that she doesn't show in this next clip. And really ask yourself the question, is this the type of future we want for our country, for our children, for our species?
People are not affecting climate change. You're going to tell me that back in the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay and how many changes did governments make to melt the ice?
Oh, God.
The climate is going to continue to change. And there is no reason to just open up our borders and allow everyone in and continue to funnel over $50 billion or however many billions of dollars or trillions of dollars to foreign countries all over the world simply because they don't like the climate change. Mr. Chairman.
Oh, my God. She is so stupid. I'm sorry. I tell my kids all the time, don't use that word, but my God, she is a moron. And she's loud and wrong, loud and ignorant, loud and cruel. Loud and cruel. They're proud of their ignorance. They are proud of their cruelty. How else do you get on? How else? Just walk with me for a second. How else would you put yourself on the record of the United States of America in testimony at a hearing inside of Congress for the rest of, as long as America exists? This is going to forever be on the record of America just how utterly ignorant and cruel she is. And that is the best way to understand the modern Republican Party. That is the best way to understand the ignorance that is telling people not to wear masks in a pandemic, telling people not to shut down during a pandemic. The cruelty of telling a mother who adopted, the irony of calling yourself pro-life and insisting that no one ever get an abortion because we have an adoption system, go and adopt kids or give your children up for adoption, and then later on call that person not a real mother because they are adopted, they adopted someone, right? The cruelty and the ignorance is just, it's appalling to us, but they are proud of it, which is why she would get on the floor of the House of Representatives and so boastfully and so proudly and loudly just declare her ignorance and her bigotry and her cruelty. And that's what Christian nationalism is. That's what the modern Republican Party is. That's what we're fighting against. And that's why we must hold the line. Let's go to this Patron party.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. Very special welcome to all of our new patrons. Thank you to Brenda Williams. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. And to Kathy, thank you for increasing your pledge. And last but not least, very special welcome to Garrett Hughes. This patron party is for all of you. Turn it up. Wait a minute. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our bi-weekly patron party, which it's always a good time. We hang out, have good music, have good fun, good conversations. Patreon.com/The BPD Show, and we will be back right after this commercial break. Unless you're a patron, of course.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I want to play a clip. So I am a Miami Heat fan. If you ask me who my basketball team is, it has been the Miami Heat, I guess, since at least 94. And I believe they became a franchise in like 1989, somewhere in 90. So I've been a fan of the Miami Heat since they have been almost the Miami Heat. Definitely a fan of Dwayne Wade, who we're going to talk about in a moment. But shout out to the Miami Heat in their victory last night over the Timberwolves. And shout out to my boy, Jimmy Butler, coming through in the clutch. All right. I just had to put that there. It's kind of serendipitous that I need to talk about Dwayne Wade and his family this morning, but also last night, the Miami Heat had a wonderful victory. But that's about as good as the rest of this segment goes. The next part I want to play for you is a clip of Dwayne Wade discussing why he had to remove his family. He had to move and relocate his family from the state of Florida to protect his children, particularly his trans daughter, Zaya. Take a listen in.
What do you have to say to some of those state legislators who maybe have your jersey in their closets, who came and brought their kids to your game to cheer for you?
Well, I think that's another reason why I don't live in this state. A lot of people don't know that. I have to make decisions for my family, not just personal individual decisions. I mean, obviously the taxes is great. You know, having Wade County is great, but my family would not be accepted or feel comfortable there. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't live there.
That's from the show Headliners with Rachel Nichols. And that's straight and to the point. when you consider what the state of Florida is doing, targeting LGBTQIA children, targeting them, targeting children generally speaking, but specifically, there is a bloodlust right now to go after every single person who is gay, lesbian, or transgender, bisexual, the LGBTQIA community. No question. There's a simultaneous war on blackness in this country. So Dwayne Wade and his family have multiple things that they have to protect themselves from. And thankfully for him, he's able to lift his family up and move to another state altogether. That's unfortunately not the reality for most black LGBTQIA children in the state of Florida. Quite frankly, around the country, the level of poverty that they live in, the level of poverty that black people live in, we just generally do not have the option to just up and leave. Most people do not. But it is something that the state of Florida has pushed itself so far on this agenda from Ron DeSantis, this agenda that is attacking and targeting the most marginalized in this country for political gain, right? They can cry about, they want to protect children all they want. That's clearly not true, because they do more to protect the priests and preachers who molest children. The Southern Baptist Church, the Mormon Church, the Catholic Church, all of the allegations, all of the investigations going on with those religious institutions, and the fact that the people around them protected the predators, not the children. So it's never been about protecting children. It's about forwarding their political ideology, and about the fact that they don't want to turn on a Disney movie and see a cartoon of two women kissing. What was that in the newest Buzz Lightyear? They have all declared war on Disney. And of course, I'm not a huge fan. When we talk about corporate interests, Disney is the greatest vulture of them all. But in this instance, I really am looking forward to Mickey Mouse dragging the floor with that pudding pop eating governor. Disney just announced a lawsuit against Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida because of the targeting that has been taking place. And I hope earnestly that they use their litigation power for good for once, because Disney does not have a record of using their litigation power for good. But we're going to give them a pass right here, because there is a far greater evil at play right now. And it is an evil that is using the guise of protecting children to harm children, to dictate to every other family how you can and should raise your children. And if you don't follow the guidelines of these Christian nationalists, they will create laws to penalize you. Just yesterday, we covered the MMA fighter Jake Shields, who tweeted out the question of whether or not, here's what Dwayne Wade has to consider. The conversation and the discourse right now includes discussions about public executions of parents, guidance counselors, doctors, or anyone who would allow a child or assist a child in transitioning. Now, let's be sure, in most cases, a child cannot have any physical operation until they're 18 or older. Okay. So when we're talking about transitioning here, we're talking about things like puberty blockers, which have been used in cisgendered children for decades. But now that it's being used as a way of delaying puberty for a child who is experiencing gender dysphoria, they are now saying that those people who make those prescriptions, or a guidance counselor who advises it, or a parent who allows it, should be publicly executed. So it's these people who talk about protecting children, who do nothing to protect children once they're born, who leave children out to dry when they are being molested and assaulted by their priest or their pastor. They are now calling for public executions of parents and doctors and guidance counselors who assist or allow a child to make decisions about puberty blockers. That's where we are, and that's what Dwayne Wade has to consider, and that's why he got the hell up out of Florida. And don't blame me, my guy. I don't blame you. Do what you have to do, what's best for your children. But this is a reality that everyone else who is left in Florida has to deal with. Ron DeSantis is doing his best to make Florida his own little mini Republic of Gilead. And the state legislatures who have the majority in both the House and the Senate, they're more than happy to comply with the demands of this little Mussolini, this uncharismatic Confederate. It's not even really a Confederate. I mean, he's only third generation America from Italy, so I think the Mussolini reference is more apt, but he's doing his best to be inducted into the Sons of the Confederacy. And you'll notice it's always a 1-2 punch with these people. They're going to use their homophobia and their transphobia. They're going to use that to galvanize as much widespread support as they can, because again, there is a problem of homophobia and transphobia all across this planet. People can't mind their business. The people are so concerned about what consenting adults do. And if you ever just take a moment to check the browser history or check what's on the hard drive of these people, you will see that they protest too much, that they are in fact the culprits, the groomers, so many cases, so many instances, but nevertheless, that does not stop them from trying to make sure that you, as a consenting adult, cannot live the life that you want to live, because they feel so compelled to force you to live according to their very specific interpretation of Christianity, and they are now leveraging it to gain political and maintain political power and to expand political power so that they can have the force of law and the power of the government to punish quote unquote sinners. And I put that in quotes because they are not going to punish their sin. They're not going to look in the mirror and see what no. They beat their wives. That's not sin. Cheat on their wives. That's not sin. Rape and molest. That's not sin if you're a priest. These are the culprits. These are the vultures that we're dealing with.
Be solved. Permissiveness is the game. I mean, you're not really serious if you're saying we're going toward a fascist theocracy.
That's right, we are.
Wait a minute. In what way? Give me one example. Wait. One example of a fascist theocracy.
When you have a government that prefers a certain moral code derived from a certain religion, and that moral code turns into legislation to suit one certain religious point of view, and if that code happens to be very, very right-wing, almost toward Attila the Hun...
Well, then you are an anarchist. Every form of civil government is based on some kind of morality, Frank.
Morality in terms of behavior, not in terms of theology.
Well, of course.
Morality in terms of behavior, not morality in terms of theology. That was all the way back in 1986 on the show Crossfire. You were listening to the voice of Frank Zappa, famed musician, as he let us know what time it was even back then. This creep towards authoritarianism, this theocratic fascism, this has been a long-term play. They have been doing their best to reclaim their power here in the United States of America, because as soon as the United States of America began affording rights to people who did not fit neatly into the white male Christian power structure, they began to declare an all-out war on democracy. And we are now just living in the fruits of everything that was done, all the seeds that have been planted, all the work that they have been doing for decades. And keep in mind that clip is from 1986, but some of the same people who were alive and well during that time are alive and well right now, executing the same agenda. And sometimes we feel like we're so far removed from the flashpoint, but these people pass this hatred down from generation to generation to generation, from mother and father down to child. And you think that each generation we're going to become more progressive, more tolerant. But in fact, they find new ways of indoctrinating even greater levels of hatred in their children. And they want to call it the love of God, the love of Christ, when they are best represented by their cruelty and by their insidiousness and their just downright evilness. It's funny, as a person of faith, I believe that, I believe Jesus is coming back, and I believe that Christian nationalists will declare war on him. Why? Because Jesus was woke. Because they are, whether they admit it or not, Christian nationalists, they are the bad guys of the Bible. I mean, of Revelation. They already wore the mark of the beast on their foreheads. Make America great again. Anyway, patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.